If you consider yourself a sugar addict or you are dealing with blood sugar problems, whether it be prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, or any of those things, then you're definitely going to want to listen to this video today. I'm going to put a scenario to you and then we're going to discuss it. So picture this. You go to the doctor and you get some blood tests done, and they include blood sugar testing, and your fasting blood sugar comes back at 81, which is not bad, and your hemoglobin A1C comes back at 5.7%. Those are two blood tests for prediabetes and diabetes. So those fall relatively within the normal range. The A1C might be borderline, but generally speaking, those numbers are good. So you'd feel good, right? Yeah? Okay. Now, what if you had some further testing, right? They checked your cholesterol and your total cholesterol was 171. You'd think, oh, wow, that's fine. My total cholesterol is, I don't have to worry about it. Then they check your LDL, which is a bad tat that correlates with heart disease, and it's 94. You'd say, oh, wow, I really am doing pretty good. I'm so proud of myself, right? The counting calories is working. So, yeah, so, okay, that's that, right? Now, what if they did even more tests, right? And they did another type of cholesterol test that's called triglycerides, and that test came back at 321. Now, would you be concerned? Or you're not concerned because your total cholesterol is fine. It's less than 200 and your LDL is less than 100. Okay, maybe you might not be that concerned, Now, what if I told you that they went further and checked a uric acid level? Now, the uric acid level came back at 9.2, and the upper range for uric acid is 7. Of course, it could probably be a little less than that, but that's what the lab says. So your level is 9.2. Now, that is a bit on the high side. Now you say, you know what? I'm not worried because I've never had gout. So, hey, I don't know. That's probably nothing because I don't have any gout pains, right? What if I told you that I can tell from these numbers that your sugar addiction is getting the best of you? Even though your fasting blood sugar and your hemoglobin A1C levels are normal, I can tell that there is still a sugar problem here. Why? Because excess sugar gets converted to triglycerides. So when I see a triglyceride level that's in the hundreds, sometimes it goes up to even 500 and more, sometimes it's unmeasurable, I know that there is excess sugar. There's too much sugar getting into the system, and it's not being burnt off because, maybe we're not running marathons, right? And so it doesn't get burned off. And so if it doesn't get burned off, it gets stored. And it gets converted to fat, triglycerides, right? And a lot of that gets stored in the liver, in the gallbladder, around the organs, okay? Now, what the uric acid, the clue the uric acid gives me is that, you know what? This sugar problem, it's a fructose problem especially, right? So a lot of this sugar, it's not just regular, sucrose, table sugar, whatever, but there's a lot of high fructose corn syrup sneaking into your diet, right? And so that's another clue that specific blood test, the uric acid, is giving me, right? So not just sugar, but high fructose corn syrup. And guess what? We know that nowadays in the processed foods, because high fructose corn syrup is cheaper than sucrose, most of the processed foods, the sweetener that they use is high fructose corn syrup. Why is that a problem? Fructose rather is like alcohol because it can only be metabolized by the liver, okay? And if you're not using it for energy, then all that fructose is going to get converted to either triglycerides, uric acid, and those things are going to float around your body and cause chronic inflammation. You might be doing okay for now, but eventually that lingering, smoldering inflammation is going to catch up with you. Now, what if I told you that further on blood testing, one of the liver enzymes was high, right? The ALT level is one of the liver enzymes, and it was 39, not sky high, but it was not normal, right? Normal range up to 29 in women, maybe a little higher, they say, but generally speaking, it should be less than 30. And this one was 39. So that high liver enzyme is telling me that, there is inflammation in the liver. And what is causing that inflammation? All the extra fat being deposited and stored in the liver. It's packing up the liver and causing fatty liver. And that fatty liver or that excess fat in the liver is now starting to cause inflammation. In the early stages, there's not much of a problem, but as more and more fat gets packed into the liver cells, it causes them to, in fact, histology, like pathology studies, when they do biopsies on the liver, in somebody who has fatty liver, they will actually report specifically ballooned hepatocytes. So the liver cells get swollen like a balloon because of all the fat that's not just in them, but it's like packed in them, packed in tightly, right? So these are the clues that I'm already getting from these basic blood tests, right? There's a test for inflammation. This one in the same, these tests came from one individual. C-reactive protein 7.5, it should be less than 1. So already there is, the body's suffering the consequences of these excesses, excess fructose, glucose, triglycerides, and so on. It's showing signs of inflammation. Inflammation in the liver, just chronic lingering inflammation, right? Now, you might think, oh my goodness, like these are happening, so this person needs some medicine, right? They need they need to go to the doctor, they need to get some medicines prescribed. But what if I told you that they were already taking a lot of medication, right? So they are taking 3 different medicines for diabetes, including insulin, right? They're taking 2 different medicines for high blood pressure, and they're taking a cholesterol medicine, and they're taking some supplements and a few other medications, right? So all in all, they're taking about 16 different medications, right? So what do you think about that? Like, do you think that if somebody's taking as many as 16 medications, there should still be abnormalities showing up on blood tests, right? We would think that if there are medications on board, prescription medications that come in with potential side effects, that the medication should be taking care of everything. You know, if we're going to be taking the risk of side effects, then the medicine better be doing its job. The medicines better be doing their job, right? That's what we would think, right? Now, what if I said that, you know what, the medicines, they're working, right? But medicines are kind of working like a Band-Aid, and the Band-Aid is starting to fall off, okay? Now, there's one step further. Now, this person, fortunately, the doctor actually did yet another test. And the test that was done, right? The test that tells it all, right? They actually had a fasting insulin level done. And do you know what that test showed? Do you think the insulin level in them, right? And of course, they take insulin, but when you do this test, you have to make sure you don't take your insulin, and to kind of time it properly so you don't have that the effect of that. And furthermore, there's a special type of insulin test you can do as well to account for that. But anyway, they had their insulin done, fasting insulin level, and it should not, in the lab, it says up to 19. It probably needs to be way less than 10. But can you take a guess as to what the insulin level was for this person who's taking 15 different medicines? And they actually have almost a perfectly normal blood sugar level, right? That insulin level was 56. So normal should be way less than 20 in the lab, according to the lab, but really less than 10. For them, it was 56. So they have sky high insulin levels. Now, what does that tell me? They have high insulin levels because the body is not responding to insulin. There is insulin resistance. One of the big reasons for insulin resistance is a fatty liver. The liver is one of the most important organs that helps to metabolize, utilize, take care of excess sugar, right? But if the liver is packed to the point where the liver cells are ballooned because of fat, those ballooned, really swollen, distended liver cells cannot function properly. They cannot accept any more glucose, right, to be converted to any more fat, because those cells are really big. And so what happens is that those ballooned liver cells, they're just like, okay, like they just turn off that insulin receptor and they stop paying attention to the action of insulin, right? And so this specifically is the root cause of all these problems. Now, what probably happened with this person, right? They're taking the medicine. It's always easier to pop a pill, but they are continuing to consume a lot of sugar, and especially foods with high fructose corn syrup. And so whereas all the cells, all the different organs and cells of the body are able to utilize and metabolize glucose, only the liver can handle fructose. And so all that fructose is coming in and bombarding the liver, and it's getting converted to triglycerides, fructose, and it's promoting the insulin resistance. So their pancreas is continually having to try to put out more insulin, it doesn't work, and so the doctor has prescribed them insulin to help make up for, you know, what the insulin from the pancreas is not able to do. And it's just a vicious cycle. This person also happens to be quite overweight, and again, the insulin promotes that, because insulin promotes growth, right? Fat storage, pro-growth, and and additionally, this person is at very high risk for liver cancer, and we're seeing more liver cancer now because eventually an inflamed liver can become scarred. They develop cirrhosis, and then after cirrhosis you can go on to develop liver cancer. And once the insulin remains high like this, right, which for many people it just persists indefinitely, because the root problem, which is the food you're taking in, is not being tackled. And so it's just, you know, depending on the medications to bandage everything up, right? But eventually, you know, the cells get ballooned and they don't work properly, and then the bottom falls out and there's liver cancer or some other unfortunate condition, right? So the message here is not to rely strictly on medications. You're going to get more and more and more medications added, but even though some numbers might look normal, there are going to be other numbers that we can see. And then if you happen to be one of the fortunate few who gets an insulin level measured, then you will really see the truth and see what is going on, right? So ask your doctor if you're suffering from any kind of blood sugar problems and you want to you're like struggling to lose weight and you don't know, then you know what, go on and see if you can get an insulin test. Because if your insulin level is high, it means that you're always in fat storage mode and you're never able to get into fat burning mode, because you cannot be in fat storage mode and in a fat burning mode at the same time, right? And so that's why you won't be losing weight, and all these things will continue to escalate, and you need more and more medicines to kind of keep everything inside the balloon. I hope you all found this video helpful. I host a challenge. It's the Eat More, Weigh Less challenge, which might sound weird because I'm telling you to eat more, but the question is, what am I telling you to eat more of? And if you join that challenge, you will see, right, your eyes will be opened, right, and you will see what it is you can have in place of those foods that are so, you know, packed with high fructose corn syrup and fillers that don't feed you but instead make you sick. So thanks for watching this, and share this video with anyone you know who might be struggling with any of these things, because a lot of people just don't know, and they're like, oh my goodness, like, I don't know, I'm doing everything right, I'm taking all the medicines and everything, but you know, I'm still like getting more medicines prescribed every day, I'm still gaining more weight, right? And this scenario explains to you why. So all the best. I'm wishing you good health, and hopefully I will see you on the Eat More, Weigh Less challenge soon.